Hello, my name is Emily Bossing, and today I will be presenting on the Trans-Theoretical Model of Behavior Change, also referred as the TTM, moving forward throughout the presentation. When creating my infographic for this model, I was really striving for simplicity and for the definition to be present and for a little glimpse of what the model entails. And so I feel like this infographic really focuses on that. You can see what the model is. The definition is given to us through our textbook. This model is used to describe the cessation of addictive behaviors and to predict uptake of health-promoting behaviors. And then below that, you can see the stages of change model: nice, present, clean, and clear. So the history of this model is also referred to as the stages of change model. This information on the history of the TTM was pulled from Boston University School of Public Health. DeClemente, which we have used as an author in our previous courses, and Prochaska developed the model in 1970s. The model focuses on decision making, and originally when the model was created, termination was not a part of it. So our textbook outlines primary constructs of the model, which focuses on the stages of change and the processes of change. Within those stages and processes of change are the pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and termination. So pre-contemplation, according to our text, is when people have no intention of changing their behavior within the next 6 months. The contemplation phase is which people are thinking about changing their problem behavior in the next 6 months. Preparation is where people are planning to change their behavior, the short term, potentially 1 month, and are taking steps to get ready for the change. Action is where people have recently, less than 6 months, changed their behavior. Maintenance, in which people have performed the new behavior for more than 6 months. And termination, or sometimes when looking at the model referred to as relapse, in which there are no temptation to relapse, people have 100% confidence in maintaining the new behavior. So that's where originally, when the model was not created, termination was not originally put in there. In the stages of change, which is also referred to, that's where they put that relapse category in. So the bulk of my presentation, I really found 2 great case studies that I feel like incorporate different perspectives of the model. And this first one, students and academic procrastination, we can all relate to this case study, and whether that's now or in undergraduate studies as well. But they use the TTM to really see what the treatment motivation would be behind students to get them motivated or not motivated to not procrastinate doing their work. So the treatment motivation focused on academic procrastination, as mentioned, the self-efficacy and decision balance that students go through when kind of working their way through the model. It also encompassed psychological strain, feelings of hope and satisfaction when moving through the stages of change in the model, perceived pressure, that's social pressure for maybe family members to make sure that students are achieving and doing well. And individual life circumstances, that can also go into the perceived pressures, but what the individual life circumstances really focused on were barriers for these students that encounter during this time. So when moving through the model, the case study really found these specific features in each stage. So the first one, students in the pre-contemplation stage, students in contemplation, preparation, and action stages appear more likely to make use of support. So if these students realize like, yep, I am procrastinating and I have a problem, these students are the most likely to seek academic support, whether that's their academic counselor, study groups, tutoring, take advantage of all those things to do better. Students in the preparation stage could also benefit from dismantling the cons of changing the course appointments, for example, with student counselors. Also, students in the preparation stage should benefit from relaxation exercise to help relieve tension from the high psychological strain, and frequent conflicts with others. Students in the action stage, it could be beneficial to reflect and increase their awareness of the pros of changing. This could be done with writing courses or learning skill programs where students could discuss their motivation to improve their skills. And lastly, in the maintenance stage of these students going through the TTM, would most likely not show much interest in professional support. So they've already kind of accepted, like, it is what it is, I'm just a procrastinator, I don't need help. But they may also be interested in receiving support such as peer tutoring or group study sessions. The second case study I found to be very near and dear to my professional heart right now, which is using motivational interviewing and the TTM for suicide prevention. As some of you know, I work in mental health, and so I'd really like to, use this class to eventually plan an amazing mental health coping skills public health program. And so when I saw this, I was like, yes, this is awesome. I need to include this in my presentation. This case study focused on pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, and action. And going back to this, I think, as some of you may know, in this case study, individuals typically go through pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, and action if they are thinking about choosing to end their life or making that decision of suicide. So this trans-theoretical model, these researchers were like, it is not technically like we're trying to do a cessation activity, but it is something that works in perfectly where motivational interviewing can be used to do a reversal of change. So, as kind of mentioned, pairing brief motivational interviewing, also referred to as MI, with mental health treatment or other interventions has the potential to increase client engagement in the interventions with long-term gains for formerly suicidal people. So their whole goal of this study was using MI in any of those stages, except for the action phase, of course, to reverse the stages of change that they were in to prevent individuals from relying on suicide. So pros to using this model, this was pulled from the Boston School of Public Health as well. This model provides suggested strategies for public health interventions to address people at various stages of the decision-making process. Typically using this model, it's easy to design interventions that are tailored towards a specific target population. So just like, wow, these researchers really identifying that these are the stages that an individual typically goes through when thinking about suicide, this model works perfect for that specific target and that specific population of people. The TTM encourages an assessment of an individual's current stage of change. And it also, like I said, instead of termination really focusing on relapse, it accounts for that in people's decision-making progress. I think, individuals working in this field know that your intervention is not going to work from the very get-go, especially when you're trying to change human behavior. And so to account for that, that's where that relapse in the model is a nice feature. The cons to using this model, let's be honest, the theories ignores the social context in which change occurs, and that's huge in public health. Knowing the social determinants of public health, knowing the barriers that are going to come into the way. So the lines between the stages can kind of be arbitrary with no set criteria of how to determine person's stage of change. It's not like when an individual is going to change behavior, they're like, oh, I'm in pre-contemplation. Now I'm in action. Now I'm in this. Oh crap, I've relapsed. Now I've got to go backwards. I'm going to redo the cycle in the model. That's not true. There is no clear sense of how much time is needed for each stage either, or how long a person can remain in one stage. So if you're a researcher going through this, you have to closely be monitoring that human behavior to specifically know what stage and when and if they've gone backwards. So that is one con. And lastly, the model assumes that individuals make coherent and logical plans in their decision-making process, which we know is not all true. We're human. The critical evaluation piece, and I pulled this from our textbook, the researchers suggest the one change in this is tailoring the stages to more an individualized approach. So thinking about the consciousness, the dramatic relief, environmental reevaluation, judging their surroundings and what they're going on, individual self-evaluating, how it feels to be liberated after achieving this, helping relationships, counter conditioning, contingency management, and stimulus control were all critical evaluations from researchers that have written our textbook for the TTM. And here are the citations that I used throughout this presentation. Thank you for listening.